um, and then we will be posting it again on our social media. So the idea is that we need to also rethink our business plan due to this crisis. And what is important for us is to understand what it means for everyone, and see how we can adapt and get out of this crisis in a positive way. And why I came up with this topic as well, because many small businesses probably are going to submit for some of the government programs that they put them for the COVID-19, and especially if you want to ask for a loan or for an investment, most probably your lender or your investor might ask you for a new business plan, and this is why it's important to revisit. Please, if you have any questions, you can either interrupt me, or we can keep the questions and answers until the end, or you can put them in the chat window and then I will read them at the end and we can answer all the questions. So what is the agenda today? So we're going to talk about in general why the business plan is important, to understand our audience, and then what are the key sections in a business plan and what to include in each section, and then how to keep the document alive, and then we'll have a short Q&A session. So just these are some statistics that came out from here from Canada, and then I was able to complement them with some statistics from Wharton University in the US. So these are statistics that out of 100 small businesses that usually they open, after 1 year, 85% survive. After 2 years, 70% of these 85% will survive. And then after 5 years, 50% will survive. And Wharton even said that beyond 5 years, only 31% of the last segment will survive, or only 10% of the initial businesses will survive beyond the 5th year. So these are in general statistics that were compiled by Wharton and by the Industry Canada research, and it is very important that, because if in normal times this is the survival rate, then now in crisis time we're going to really see these percentages going off the chart, and then we need to understand how to support our own businesses so that we don't fall into these statistics. So why a business plan is important? First of all, it's going to help us to grow our existing business, or if we are going to think now about a new business, so it's going to help us to put the framework of a new business. It is going to definitely back up a business loan application or an investment application. The valuation of the business for formal transaction, this is mainly related when we look at mergers, acquisitions, and if someone is trying to evaluate their business to sell it or to merge with someone so that they have like equity shares in a company, or so this is very important for everyone to understand where the business stands. Is to understand in advance. When you say the partnership needs, it doesn't mean a partnership in the equity, but it could be also the business partnerships, like who is my business partner, with whom I should do a special deal so that they are going to help me improve my business. And then definitely to clearly articulate the objectives, and then it is going to be easy for us to share them with the management team and with our investors or lenders. Is understand in advance the team who need to help us to reach our goals. So this is very important, because once we put a business plan in place, we'll start understanding the skills which we need in the company, and then this is going to help us to identify the profile of people whom we might want to recruit or to bring along with us. So this is very important, because many small businesses, they start by themselves and they say that they can do it all as one individual. However, over time, they will realize that they are not really able to do it. So instead of realizing this late in the game, a business plan is going to help you to understand This doesn't mean that you will be hiring from day one, but at least you will put on a piece of paper and on a clear plan by when you might be hiring someone or by when you might need some support. Is definitely decide in advance on all your capital expenditures that are short, mid, and long term. The same thing for the operational expenditure. And then definitely share your strategy and priorities with key stakeholders. And then I will explain a little bit later what it means, the key stakeholders. I just want to go back on the CapEx and OpEx, why it is very important, because this is going to determine at some point, on top of the investment needs, the cash flow of the business. It's very important to know by when a business will become cash flow positive, and then for how long you might need financing or support, so that it's not a surprise that during the course of the business, people will see themselves short in cash, and then they cannot continue operating, or they are just trying to do firefighting rather than having a plan for it. And then last but not least is to set specific objectives for managers and employees. So when I say this, usually the employees don't see the business plan, and you don't have to share it, but at least it's going to help you as a business owner or business owners to articulate the objectives in a way where you can share these objectives and to the managers and employees, so they know why they are working with you, what is the purpose of the business, and what is their purpose within the team, to increase just the efficiency and make things more operational friendly. Now, just some questions is like, what does it mean to write a business plan? If we write a business plan, or when we write a business plan, it's going to help us to, first of all, identify and help us in the critical decision-making process. Because when we start really thinking about our business, we start understanding what are the pitfalls, and we start having, at least in our mind, the what-if scenarios. And if we lay them down and we are clear about how we want to tackle each one of them, this is going to help us to fight all this and to build a strong business from the get-go. Especially now in this crisis. So now people should definitely do, in a way, what we call war games or what-if scenarios, so that we understand how our business is going to survive in the next 3 months first, and then in the next 6 months, and then in the next year, because this crisis is very heavy on everyone, and the business landscape is changing almost every day about what we can do, what we cannot do, who is open, who is not open, supply chain, and all this kind of stuff. So, and also the business plan is going to help us to iron out all the wrinkles. So just like all the small details, and then every time we encounter a small detail and then we think that we need to have an answer. So it's very important that we sit and think about it and then write it in the business plan, how we're going to mitigate a specific problem. And this is very important when you are laying down this business plan in front of lenders or investors, that they understand that you really grasp the in and out of the business, and that you inspire and you show confidence in your business. Then it helps us avoid definitely big mistakes, so that also at the end of the day we're not really chasing our tail to try to find a solution, and prove how solid is your plan. You know, once you start putting it on paper and you start really thinking about it, then you might start looking at what are the weak points of the plan or of the business in general, or even of a certain industry. And then you start really thinking about, should I be more innovative and maybe go to a niche market rather than really going with the flow and face probably a huge competition. So all this needs to be thought of much earlier. And then definitely to set and communicate objectives, as we said before. Now, the additional ones, which I think that are the most important ones, are it's going to help us to reduce the risks, and it's going to help us to secure financing. And I think this is what are the lenders, the bankers, and the investors are really looking at when they are looking at the business plan. So how the people that are behind the business are able to really understand the way to do business and hence reduce the risks around the business. Now, going to the understanding the audience. Who is our audience when we are preparing a business plan? We have potential investors, so if someone is looking at having a partner or partners or doing an acquisition as well, so everything should be laid down and understanding the business through a business plan. It could be a banker, especially if we're going to get a loan or ask for a loan. It could be potential partners, and when we talk about potential partners, this is what I mentioned before, is who are my business partners, my retail partner, it could be the accounting firm, it could be whoever is going to really help us to reach and to deliver. So they might want to see a business plan, especially if we are doing a long-term partnership or we're asking for a very strategic partnership and cooperation with a different entity. And definitely the internal managers of the business. However, and I put this link together, especially that we are here in Nova Scotia and in the Maritimes, these are small markets, and most probably everybody knows everyone. And then it could be a very probable scenario is that your banker would know your investor and that your manager would know the banker. So it's very important at some point that everyone has seen the same business plan. When I say the same business plan, is that the same spirit, logic, and confidence in a business plan. Because if you are probably showing a business plan for a banker, you might want to add some specific details that are helping the banker to make some decisions that are more financial details. However, if you want to show your business plan maybe to a potential partner, you don't have to show the same granularity of details, but however, they all need to see what is your growth path, what is your strategy, what are your products, how your customers are going to come to you. So you need to have a unified story. Because if you don't have a written business plan and every time you go and you tell a story to someone, and then if they meet and they want to cross-check this information, they might start getting conflicting stories, and hence you will build doubt in their minds so that you're not anymore in a strong position or negotiating power position. So what are the key sections usually in a business plan? And here we are looking at a business plan for small businesses. Okay, so definitely a huge a company that has tens of thousands of employees and turnovers in hundreds of millions of dollars. The business plan might be much bigger than 25 pages. But for small businesses, we think that 20 to 25 pages are, first of all, a very decent document where you can lay down enough details for your audience to understand what you want. So usually the way it goes is that we should have a cover page, then an executive summary, between 1 and 4 pages, and this is very important. It all depends on how complex is the business or how detailed is the business. So you can increase the size of the executive summary. Usually, as a rule of thumb, a good executive summary should be between 1 and 2 pages. A management team biography, and then what is the company doing, and describing the products and services, explain the market audience. So this is where we understand who is our target market, and we demonstrate that we did a good market research. Competitive landscape, the go-to-market strategy and the roadmap, the business case. When we talk about the business case, this is more the financial analysis. It's this spreadsheet which you really work on all the fine details of your business. If you remember, we said at the beginning the important part is CapEx and OpEx. So we need to lay down the details of this CapEx and OpEx. And why this is important, I will go back to there, because usually bankers, lenders, and investors and business partners would want to look at some ratios. And when they see the ratios, and if the ratios are aligned with the industry ratios, then you give them a little bit more confidence that you know what you're doing. But sometimes your ratios might be not in line with the industry trends, and then you need to explain why. This doesn't mean that you did something wrong, but at least if you can explain why, then this brings more the confidence for the decision makers. And then at the end, it's very important is what is the ask? Some people just do a business plan and they don't lay down at the end what they are asking for. And this is very important because at the end of the day, the person who's going to read this document, they will read the document and then they will ask, so what? So I got this is good, perfect. So what do you want? You want me to become an advisor? You want me to put money on the table? You want me to find you an investor? So it's very important to put the ask and really show what we really want. Now, let's go into what to include in every section. This is the obvious, but I always state the obvious. We need to have a cover page showing the logo of the business, the name of the business, the title, like what is the title of the business of this document, and your contact details. So it's very important that people would know to whom they have to come back in case there is they have a question. Now, let's go to the executive summary. In the executive summary, the company, we have to have a company description summary, which means that we need to give a reason for the reader to read the document and to meet with you. So this is the first and utmost priority, like why we are taking this time and really putting everything on paper and think about our business, because we need to make sure that the persons who are reading this document would be interested in having a discussion. So if you don't put a very compelling and interesting introduction about what you're doing, you might already lose the reader from the beginning. Then we need to show the problem. So we need to describe what problem we are trying to solve, right? So for example, if we're looking in, I will take just an example during this specific crisis, right? So let's assume that we were a trucking business, right? And now we see that it is very low time, and we don't have lots of business. So how are we going to reinvent our business and see what we are going to do with these trucks, with these drivers? And it's important that if we know a problem, we need to lay down the problem and say that this is the problem, this is because of the crisis, and now we are trying to find the solution. And this is how this is our solution. This is how we are going to think about the solution. So for example, it could be, let's make, in a way, an Uber-like for trucks, right? Anyone who needs a truck, so all the trucks are going to register on a portal, and all the drivers will be registering on a portal as long as, for example, they have their credentials checked. And then anyone needs a truck, or they can put the specifications, we match the truck to a driver, and then there you go, you have someone going. Maybe, right? Because this is how we want to do it, because demand is low, and we want to put a little bit more, more information and tools in the hands of the potential customer. So this could be, I'm just giving an example about how we describe our solution and we say why we are doing it. And why now? And this is very important. We need to explain who will benefit and why it is the right time. Because for every business plan, there should be a specific right time for it. Especially for the example which I gave right now. Maybe if I came with this idea 6 months ago, the businesses who had trucks and drivers would tell me, Mark, you are crazy, we are doing very fine now, we don't care about it, right? We don't want to consolidate, we don't want to support each other. We are in a very good competitive market, and we are very happy. But today, maybe this business plan might be accepted by almost all the trucking companies. I don't know, I am just giving an example. So this is why the timing is very important. right? And this is how we need to explain and lay it down in layman terms, how, the what, the how, and the who. And this is in a way in an executive summary. Some people asked me before if we need to put financial results in the executive summary. If you want to put financial numbers and financial information in the executive summary, you can, as long as they are high titles and they are good numbers. Like, for example, if you say we are expecting after 5 years to have, I don't know, a turnover of $3 million, and actually the initial capital investment is less than 100,000, then yes, it's very catchy, right? Like you put only 100,000 and then you're making a turnover of 3 million after 5 years. So, but if it was the other way around, you say that the capital needed is 3 million, but we're going to make 100,000 in turnover, then definitely don't put it in the executive summary. Let the reader understand why this is very odd, so that they read the story rather than they are completely off on the first page. And then this is our first tip for the day, is if you can pitch your company in 10 words, it would be great if you can do it also in the executive summary. So for example, these are a couple of examples. So an example is, we pay you to recycle. So if we put this, I think we already told too much about the company, what they do, what they are trying to do. So we understand that the persons who are going to recycle are going to receive some money, and that we as a company, we are in the recycling business where we are able to generate profit and share this profit with the people who are recycling. So that's it. So if I am an investor or I am a lender who is into the recycling environment and I like this kind of topics, you won me as a reader at least. Another example, and this is a live example of our own business strategy up, is improving operational efficiencies through technology. So I think when you read this, we understand that we are in the technology business, and our aim and our mission is to improve operational efficiency through writing processes, bringing systems, people, and training, and that's it. So you don't need to really say a lot for a business, but you need to be able to really give a good pitch in less than 10 words. So this is what we said: do not include financial details in the executive summary unless they are like good numbers and just the summary, no Excel files, no spreadsheets, no tables in the executive summary. And do not include technical details. Like, don't start talking about how, let's say, if you are into a production, or how a machinery or line of production is going to be working. It's not its place in the executive summary. Then the management team bio is very important, because most of the time, especially when they are small businesses, if we're talking about small business or newly established businesses, the lenders or the investors are all the time looking at the team, because they want to have enough confidence that the team who is behind the business is able and capable of running the business, right? Because maybe you have lots of smart people who can put very good words on a document, but then at the end, if you don't have the right team behind it, you cannot deliver. And what is the most important thing for the investors and for the lenders is that you can deliver, because they want return on investment, or they need their money back. So it's very important for them to feel this sense of confidence in the team that yes, you can do it. Yes, we have the right people behind it. So remember, as an entrepreneur or as a small business, you are always selling. You are in a mode of business development. So if you are not a good salesperson, then definitely you need to hire one, right? So it's very important. Again, maybe not from day one, but as long as you are aware of that and you know when to put this hiring of the salesperson within your business plan and the lifetime of your business, then it's a good thing to know. So you are constantly selling yourself and selling the business and the business idea. And then what is important is that we need to understand what is the experience within the team, right? And this is what I was talking about. Now, sometimes you might have, as we said, newly established businesses. And these newly established businesses might be a group of young people. So when they don't have a solid work experience, then it might be very important to surround yourself with a solid advisory board. Like reach out to the community, to the I would say successful business people in the community who might understand your business, and try to bring them on an advisory board. Because when the lender or the investor are going to see that although the team is not very solid because they are fresh graduates, or for example, you might have one great business person, but this is a very heavy engineering company, so there are no engineers in the management team. Then if you have a very strong advisory board where you have successful people in engineering, in construction, for example, or in manufacturing, then you're giving a stronger confidence for these people who are reading your document that at least you are surrounded by the right people. And this is the right time as well during the crisis. You have many people who are very successful as running businesses during a crisis, and even they were able to make successful and profitable businesses during severe crisis. Maybe it's time to reach out to them and see if they have time or if they would like to be on your advisory board. And in order to do that, you need to show them a solid business plan. So why this person has to spend more time on your business rather than spending time on another business where they think that they really can add value and help. So in a way, you need to really show all these people who are going to surround you that also you understand what you're trying to do. So we need also to describe the company, what the company is doing, what are the products and services. So we need to look at the front end. When we talk about the front end, is what the customer is going to see and experience about your products and service. So you need to be able to clearly define and describe what the customer, the client, is going to have. And also you need to describe the back end. And when we talk about the back end, is how you will achieve this. What are the processes, the technology, the people. So you need to show what my client is going to see, what my client is going to experience, and then how I will be delivering. You know, and this is where we need to show a strong grasp of it in the document. It's extremely important because this is what's going to drive revenue. Not the front end is going to drive revenue, and the back end is going to drive the cost. So if we see that we have a good control on our revenue drivers and on our cost drivers, then definitely the reader is going to feel more confident about the business. So we need to define the product, set the price level, where it will be distributed, sold, and how the product service will be promoted. So technically, if I want to say this in less words, these are the 4 P's of core marketing, right? It's product, place, price, and promotion. So people who are reading this document, they need to understand all this. So the second tip of the day is, what is your strategy to become well-known in the market? So you need to know what is your strategy, what is your go-to-market strategy, and you need to be able to put it on paper. What is your strategy to create strong partnerships? And again, you need to have a concrete, achievable, and measurable strategy. So lay out a detailed strategy for your reader. It's very important. People sometimes think that the strategy is very confidential. Oh, I cannot tell them how I will be doing it because they might be taking the idea and doing it. Or, you know, investors and lenders are not in the business of competing with you. Investors and lenders are in the business of helping us to get the funds which we need to run a business. So if we don't give them enough information and strong information about this, most probably either they will reject our ask or we will be getting much less than what we were expecting. All this just because they didn't have enough confidence in what we were saying. So we need to tell the story, right? This is very important about explaining our market and explaining our target audience. We need to explain how the market was before the crisis or before this T0 where we came to ask for this investment or this loan, and what were we doing and how well we were doing. So we need to show them that before we were good, and that because of an event that happened, this doesn't mean that we are bad, but we need help. And if you give us this help, and if we receive this help, this is the after. This is how the market will look like after we execute our business plan. You know, and this is what is the impact that we're doing on the market. What kind of, again, I go back, what kind of problem we are solving and how we are solving it, and what is our business plan and business case looking after we get this funding or this support. So we need to show this as a key element of a business plan. We need to become the expert in our industry. You know, it's very dangerous to come and not be an expert. You know, I might have a million ideas running in my mind, and then I cannot go for every single idea and say I need funding for it because I have the idea. If I cannot show that I am an expert, that I am able really to run the business successfully, efficiently, in an optimal way, then the investor or the lender might not want even to listen to me when I discuss with them. We have to assume that whoever is reading the business plan has no knowledge about the industry, right? So we need to be very careful about how we write the document. So don't use complex terms unless they are like very strategic terms. Don't make them search or second guess what you mean. This is our unique chance to really tell everything and to explain the way we want them to understand. So it's very important when we write a business plan to use the right language and to put not too much information so that it's not anymore a thesis of 100 pages, but enough information for them to understand in 3, 4, 5 pages of technicalities of products and services and market what we are talking about. We need to explain very in details our market and target audience, right? We need to have a plan about how customers are going to purchase our services. We need to show the user experience. We need to say that I do A, customer do B, and then I deliver doing C. So they need to really understand how the whole user experience, customer journey is going to happen. So what is your plan for this? And in order to really understand it, we need to do ultimately market research. We understand that maybe not all businesses will go into a market research, but it is very important, especially if the business is is hungry for capital, and you need like a high capital expenditure at the beginning. Then definitely a market research is needed to understand the competition, understand how big is the addressable market, because it's going to help us to do the pricing and the positioning. So understand as well what the customer wants, which problems they really have, rather than which problems we think that they have. And this is very important. Many times you have business owners who will decide to do things in one way because they think that this is how it should be done and how the market will respond to. But sometimes the reality is completely different. So a market research is going to really help us understand this gap between people who are within our industry and we are swamped with our industry, where we think that everything is obvious and easy, how really the market is perceiving it. And then based on the market size, you might have room for very few competitors or room for many. And this is important because if you are entering a crowded industry or a crowded environment, then you will understand the struggle which you might be facing in order to succeed and have a positive impact on your cash flow and on your revenue. So of course, we need also to have the persona. We need to know the customer. What is the ideal customer for us, right? And we need to be able to write it in one paragraph. How are our customers motivated to perform a specific action towards a product or service? And all this will get it through the market research. And how would they choose us and why? And it is very important, right, to understand this through the market research. And then we need to write the answers and implement them as concrete action plans and projects. Like, for example, if we say, nowadays, most of the customers whom we surveyed or potential customers are looking at a very easy online shopping experience, then we need to make sure that our website is optimized to have an online store, very easy to use, very easy to navigate. Then if you put it as an action plan and project, then you would know, oh yeah, here I need a web designer, here I need someone who is experienced in e-stores, and maybe I need someone who is very strong in social media. And this is where you start understanding the team and the skills which you need for your business. Then, of course, we need to define the market strategy. So defining the market strategy is we need to be as specific as possible. And if you can, from the beginning, go to this kind of granularity, what is the media plan? Which medias I am going to use? Is it print media? Is it billboard? Is it radio? Is it TV? Is it social media? Is it door-to-door? Is it whatever, right? So we need to understand how we're going to approach our marketing strategy, the distribution channels. Am I going to be in, let's say I sell a product, am I going to try to find a way to have my product with the, I don't know, Sobeys Superstore, or I am going to go into the much smaller merchant and go into all these small convenience stores and my product would be there, right? So this is very important to understand how you will be reaching your market and hence how you will be positioning your product. Do lots of what-if scenarios. Avoid being reactive in the heat of the moment. So definitely plan, prepare, act, monitor, and evaluate the situation. I spoke about this in our previous webinar, but I am just putting here one simple notion, is that we need to all the time understand the demand and supply, especially during a crisis and especially after a crisis. Because the demand before a crisis is something, the demand during a crisis is something else, and after the crisis is completely different. And I will not talk long about this, but just as a simple example, the demand of, I don't know, just simple, going to and sitting in a restaurant and having a beer was extremely high. Today, it's zero because all restaurants are closed, there is no demand. Tomorrow, when the virus goes away and everything goes back to normal, how long it will take for the consumer to come back to the mindset of their demand before the crisis? It will take longer time than we expect. And then if I am a restaurant owner, I need to understand this, and I need to know that after the crisis, my ramp up in revenue is not going to be like this as if it was day -1 of before the crisis. So once we understand this, then we're going to build the evolution. If I was, for example, a small restaurant, how I will be bringing back my customers, and this is my plan. Competitive landscape, we always need to understand the competition and understand why we are in a market. And many times we think that we are the only ones doing something. So if we are really this, then we need to always ask ourselves, why no one did it before? Is it a bad idea, or am I a genius? And I would say 99% of the cases, it is a bad idea, right? And when we say this, then we need to dig a little bit deeper, because competition might be at different level, right? So if you are, let's say, someone who is selling clothes, let's say you have an apparel store, who is your competitor? Is it only the store that is next door, or it is also Amazon? or it is also the online ordering of all these brands or stores like Walmart, like you go to the like Roots, for example, they have online ordering, right? So the question is, we need to dig a little bit deeper so that we understand really who are our competitors and not just look at the face value of it, because now businesses are much more dedicated into micro marketing and more niche products. So we need to really understand how we're going to navigate through this web of micro marketing. So this is a third tip of the day. When we do the business plan, we need to list few competitors. Don't come with a page where you have 50 competitors, because to be honest, at some point when you are in an industry, if you are in a restaurant, every other single restaurant is your competitor, but this is not true. We need to find your unique selling proposition and then say, based on this USP, who is my real competitor? And then if you really dig deeper and you funnel all this, then you will really understand that you have around 5 or 6 real competitors around you. And this is what is important, is to talk about these 3, 4, or 5 or 6 real competitors, not about the whole industry, because definitely the whole industry is your competitor. So definitely also you need to do benchmarks. It's very important to do benchmarks because it's going to give us a health check about what we're trying to do as a business. And when you do a benchmark, then it's easier to do a local benchmark versus a regional benchmark to see how your business might grow if the market grows. And this is going to give more confidence as well to lenders and investors that there is scalability in the business, right? This is very important. So if you can prove scalability, this is definitely a winning point in your business plan. Now, in order to build your strategy, we propose different business strategy models which you can use. The SWOT analysis to show the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, or the 5 forces of Porter's, where you are looking at competition or entering a new market or rethinking your business. Maybe you want to shift from focusing on one market. Maybe, for example, before you were focusing on the consumer, and now because of the crisis, you want to focus on the medical sector. So you are entering a new market for you, and now you need to understand what are the different forces of competition. And then finally, you can also use the PEST model, which is a political factor, economic, social, and technology factor. And this could be relevant in a crisis because the economic factor is high, because economy is stressed and is putting at a very strong test. Social factor as well is very, very, very important because socially, like today with this social distancing and self-isolation, the mindset of the people is changing. So the social behavior are changing. So if you think that everything will continue to be done later the same way it was done before, I think that will be wrong. Political factor here, we look at government policies and tax policies, labor law, trade. All this might change, right? It might change positively or negatively in different directions depending where you are sitting. So it's very important maybe to use this model in times of crisis. And technological factor as well is important because if you never used technology before in your business, and now as you noticed, everybody is working remotely, so technology is the main driver for businesses today. So most probably the PEST analysis for now might be a very strong model to use combined with one or both of the other models so that you really understand your strategic positioning and your strategic plan. Now we go to the financial analysis, and the business case is very important to mention how you will start or continue making money and what are your cost drivers. We need to show a revenue stream per product or service and provide information about expected numbers of clients per service. Why this is important? Because let's assume I say I will be making $100,000. Good. Am I going to make $100,000 because I sold one Ferrari, for example, or I am making $100,000 because I am selling 100,000 items at $1 per item? And for this, I need to have at least 80,000 customers because I think 20,000 might purchase more than once from me and more than one item at a time. So when you start giving this kind of details to your reader, they will start having more confidence that you really understand how your revenue is generated and what are the expectations, and that you are understanding it at a product or service level. And of course, we need to talk about the CapEx, the capital expenditure, the OpEx, the operational expenditure. Here, for example, just to give an example, if let's say we put payroll, they just want to see payroll is X tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. They are not in a business plan looking at, for example, how much Mark is going to get in salary, how much Dave is going to get in salary. They are looking at a ballpark number so that they look at ratios and understand if it makes sense. However, after they read the business plan, and if they are interested, they might ask you to provide more details. And this is where you need to have everything ready for you, and then provide the details when you are asked for. So in the financial details, as I said, don't provide any working documents and drafts because these are even more confusing. And we know that in working documents and drafts, you might still have mistakes because they are not final, and then your reader is going to stop at the mistakes rather than on the big picture. So don't do this at all, and don't provide excessive details, as I said before. What you can do is embed a spreadsheet with line items, but let it be just summary of line items or categories, and forecast 3 to 5 years. So you need to have a business plan with a forecast of 3 to 5 years. Now, in terms of crisis, and especially for cash flow management, maybe it is important to have a forecast on a weekly basis that is rolling 3 months as long as the crisis is there. However, when you're not in crisis, the way we usually do, the first year would be monthly. So we show the monthly forecast for year 1, and then we show the annual forecast for year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5. And why this is important, because also the lender and the investor, they want to really understand how your revenue is progressing, how your cash flow is progressing. If they see that you are in a negative cash flow for a long period, then they might be worried. They need to understand why. Definitely some businesses are very cash demanding, so it's the nature of the business, but some others might not. And this is why you need to be able to explain it. So in the do's, show the income statement in the business plan, show a payroll expense, high-level payroll expense, show a cash flow statement, monthly for year 1, and as I said, during the crisis, weekly for the first 3 months. So at the end, we need to have the ask, right? We need to have a very strong, detailed request. Make sure that we articulate clearly what we are asking from our banker or financial advisor or investor. We need X dollars to do Y. We need advisory services to do Z. We need. Avoid in this business plan, if you are looking at investors and you want, in a way, you want them to invest to get equity, avoid in this specific period to tell them how much equity you are willing to give them, right? Even if you know it, don't put it in the document, because if their mindset is very far from what you have put on the paper, they might not call, they might not want to talk to you because the ask is not matching. However, if you keep it a little bit vague, you say, I want, let's say, $200,000. I need $100,000 to do this, and against this we give you equity, and you keep it at there. Then you might see your phone ringing, and they might talk to you so that they understand later what they want. And here you have even a better chance to explain yourself. This way they know you more face-to-face, one-on-one, and then the discussion will change, and the spirit of the discussion will change completely. Tip 5, handle investors. In case of an investment, as I say, do not promise a return. right? It's very important in the business plan not to say, I guarantee that this is going to be our return, because first of all, it could be legally binding, right? And you don't want to have this. However, you can state that if you give us this money, or when we receive this loan, we will do our best to try to get the closest possible to our objectives, right? So try to use a language that is soft so that you don't overpromise and underdeliver. And as I said, do not offer evaluation at this stage. This is the end of the webinar, or what I have to say. All I want to add is that we have a training that is planned on April 16 and May 7. So we have 2 different sessions about strategic thinking and planning. And here we're going to go into more details about writing the business plan, looking at the strategic planning models, which we discussed about. And then by the end of the training, the persons participating will have a much stronger understanding about how the steps and how to go and really write a successful business plan. So now I think I will open the floor for the questions and answers. Please, if you have any questions, let me know.
Hi, Mark. It's Rajiv here.
Yes, hi, Rajiv.
Hi. Thanks for the presentation. Yeah, it was very insightful. I just have one question. Will you be able to share this presentation which you presented with us?
What I will do, I will be sharing the webinar on our social media so you can review it.
Okay.
We usually don't share our presentations. Is it okay? But if you need, like, if you are looking at something in specific, I can send you the specific content which you are looking for.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. If I need something specific, I'll let you know. There were so many points, I could take notes of some, but of course, it was a lot of information covered in 1 hour. So.
Yeah, I know. And usually this is how webinars go, that we cannot go in details. But we'll definitely post this on our social media and on our website, and then I will share the link with everybody so that you can go back to it.
Sure, great. And sorry, one more question, Mark. So do you also give one-on-one support to people for making business plan, or any document required for the business?
Yes. So technically, so I don't know if you saw our communication on social media. I don't know if you are following us. We have put in place a special support plan for this period, and one of the services which we are offering now is a free of charge 2 hours discussion with any person who has an idea or has a business, where we can discuss with them what they need, how they need to think, and then after that we can look at the details and see how we can support you. So if you need any help, please, by all means, reach out to me after this webinar, and we can organize definitely a 2 hours call or video call and go through all the questions and whatever you have. And just to add, on our special response plan, we also added very discounted online training sessions. So like the one which I just talked about, it's going to be $59 per person for 4 hours. Our regular price was $699, so you can understand how much we discounted them. And also we created a special support for digital presence, digital marketing, and social media. So we can do a full support, outsourced support. I can share with you also the details just in case you need them.
Sure, that will be great. So when you mentioned social media, is it like you're on Facebook?
We are on Facebook, LinkedIn.
Okay, right.
So you can find Strategy Up on Facebook and on LinkedIn. And you can, and almost everything is on our website, so you can see it on our blog or under our online training section and services section.
Okay, great.
I can share with you later also all the links, so you can have them in one place.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, welcome. Okay, anyone else has any questions? Okay, I think that if we don't have more questions, I want to thank everyone who was on the call and on this webinar for following us. I hope that it was positive, it was enough information. I know that we cannot say too much during the webinar, but if you have any questions, please reach out to me after this webinar or anytime you want. I will be more than happy to answer any questions. Thanks a lot and have a great day. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Bye.
Good day.